Hello and welcome to all our viewers in Nigeria and around the world to Global Television. We're live in the nation's capital, Abuja, and this is Business Point. I am Queen Agaba. Now, the food crisis in Nigeria is a pressing issue that needs urgent attention. Several factors contribute to this crisis, including extreme weather conditions, conflicts and instability, economic challenges, and poor agricultural practices. My guest on the program is Aro Leonard. He's a media development expert and founder, Clevaro Communications. He will be discussing further Nigeria's economic reality and the food crisis in the country. We'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive deep into the conversation. Please stay with us. We'll be right back. Wait, Mona. Many thanks for joining us. Before the break, I just introduced my guest, Aro Leonard, who is a media development expert and founder of Clevaro Communications. Many thanks for joining us, Mr. Aro Leonard.
Thank you very much.
It's such a delight to have you. Thank you. We all know that we as a country are currently experiencing inflation, a lot of economic challenges, and the fact that food, which is supposed to be basic, is what a lot of Nigerians, statistics has it that a lot of Nigerians are living below poverty line. And now food, if you go to the public, go out, conduct vox pop, you find out that people tell you that they cannot afford 3 square meals, as you know, as is the basic, like food, basic amenities. What do you make of all of this?
Funny enough, the truth about it is that despite all this, Nigeria is still doing well with regards to food. Food is not really our problem in this country, despite what's happening. What's the effect of so many things happening in the country is that it has just reduced the amount of food that is available, and certain people seem to be exploiting the situation for monetary and other selfish purposes. Nigeria has enough food. God has so blessed us with everything. We have enough food to feed the entire world, not just Africa. That's the truth. There's nowhere in the world that is as blessed as Nigeria when it comes to food. So what we are having is just a reduction, and it's mainly because of so many external factors that are solvable. Whether you talk about climate issues, it's not really devastating Nigeria. It's something we can solve, but because we've not been able to put the right policies in place and implement activity, when you talk about security, of course we can solve security if we want to in this country. So those are the kind of issues that are affecting food, and not what we are seeing now, where once the naira falls below, certain level, food prices also go. It's not supposed to be. We produce what we eat. So I don't understand.
So the fact that it is sad, because truly we are blessed. Our land is rich, our land is fertile, we're blessed. And that we produce most of what we eat, most of what we consume. It's still a bother as to why there will be such increase in the prices of food, in the prices of food items. What can be done? What can we do to, salvage this situation, to mitigate the effect of the food crisis that we're currently facing?
First and foremost is to realize, what we have in Nigeria, and let it get to the consciousness of everybody that we are not a hungry nation. That's the first thing. We must know that, because it seems like some certain pictures are being painted that there is a food crisis in Nigeria. We are not in any kind of crisis. We can never be in any kind of crisis. It's only human issues. So once we realize that, and everybody knows that, then that will open up the space to question anybody who is doing anything to prevent Nigerians from eating what we produce. So that's the first thing. Then government policies needs to be in place. Now, you see, things are so, for instance, the agric sector works on its own. You know, security, they are on their own. The economic guys, they don't even think about what happens in the agric sector. They talk about naira, dollar on their own. You know, so there needs to be that meeting point, a multi-sectoral approach. And it's now the same as a development communications expert. We've come to see that all these are interwoven. And my academic degree is environmental and resources planning. So none of them operate in isolation. So when you're not able to pull these sectors together, to make them work together and see how each sector affects the other and plan together, you begin to have this kind of crisis. Okay? So with that, when you know that security issues affect agriculture, when you know that environment issues affect agriculture and vice versa, then you begin to work. I'll give you an instance. Later on this year again, NIMET is going to give us very soon, they're going to tell us how Nigeria will be flooded again come June, July, and above, right? We know it's coming. It happened last year. It happened the year before. There was the killer one of 2012. We know these things will come. So what plan are we making? That time will come, and then you were going to hear that, oh, the flood washed up crops. We knew it was coming. Or we'll hear someone in Cameroon open dam, for goodness sake. Dams are always open. We know it will happen. So what do we do? Now, that same flood water is the same water that is meant for irrigation. It's the same water that's supposed to be stored in man-made reservoirs. Like now, we're in Abuja here. You see the Jabi Lake? It's man-made. Okay? Those are the kind of things that are supposed to be along that stretch from the Cameroon border down to Kogi State. You know, Benue, Taraba, even Adamawa, down to Kogi State. You're supposed to have pockets of all those kind of things, where immediately there's that flooding, you divert that. Now, that water is used for dry season farming. You get it? Same water is used for fish ponds and things like that, but we're not doing that. So that's why we'll now begin to, you now see that, and that way, you open the room for many more people to come into the sector. Like now, you wear things that are back to farm. They tell young guys, you know, who are leaving school, go back to farm. Where are they going back to? A few people corner the entire market. But when you open up this thing, you farm 24/7, and our soil is so fertile, you drop anything anywhere, it grows. You know, when sectors begin to work together, that's when, and then you begin to design policies in that line, plan ahead, and things will work.
Now, as regards going back to farm, you know, a couple of days ago, I was privileged to attend the summit of women in agriculture. Wow. And yes, that meeting was to put out the challenges that farmers face, especially grassroots farmers, as well as women farmers and all of that. And one of the key challenge that, you know, they pointed out was the fact that they hear that there are policies for, you know, to better the lives of farmers. There are resources put out to farmers, women farmers, grassroots farmers especially. We also hear that there are resources giving out fertilizers, in terms of fertilizers and all of that, and their empowerment programs. They hear. So this is coming from these farmers at the grassroots. But they hear, they see these things, but it don't get to them. So it obviously means that there are plans in place, but there are people who maybe just know the language of farming. Just, you know, the office farmers, those farmers that are in the office instead of being at the field, or people who just assume the title of farmers, because these people now are telling you that they've been seeing and they've been hearing about policies, resources given out to them, but it has not gotten to them, those people who are actually at the fields. So how and why is this so? And how can this be breached to ensure that, you know, and I think this is one of the reasons, if these farmers don't have tools, farm implements, they don't have fertilizers, they don't have security, especially for their farms, we're definitely going to be having this crisis. So what can be done about this situation?
You see, one funny thing that happens again that I wonder why is this lack of continuity. Once one government goes, another one comes in, it's as if nothing happened in the last government. Everybody wants to start afresh. And then people capitalize on that. Now, during the Goodluck Jonathan's time, the agricultural ministry came up with certain policies and strategies, and they were able to a very large extent eliminate this middlemanism in the sector. And we saw evidence that farmers got things directly. Even in the Buhari administration, especially when you talk about women farmers, you know, I was part of those who draft the when the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs was having issues, we came in to help, you know, do some communication strategies, because it's sad that all those issues came out, but that was one of the best ministries ever, any ministry that took care of the welfare of Nigerians. And there were strategies, even within that ministry, I don't know about the implementation, that made certain things to get directly to those farmers and women. There were strategies like that. But you see, the other challenge for me is that the crisis, what we do many times, we subsidize for the farmers, which middlemen take advantage of and collect. But I think what could really happen in Nigeria is where the government thinks of subsidizing for the consumers of food. Just like they are doing, they subsidized our consumption of fuel for so many years. I think we need to start thinking about subsidizing for the consumers, because the people who are really crying out about no food and hunger are those of us who are, it's not the farmers, it's those who have to buy the food, who, because of all those middlemanism, the prices of food now goes up, we can't afford it. And that's where the challenge is. I think we should do that while the government focuses on, rather than what we are doing now, giving handouts to people. And it's really sad. Throughout the Buhari regime, up till now, we are still doing handouts, giving handouts to people. It doesn't help. The handouts will finish, then they'll start protesting again. That's what happened. The same people who are telling you they are not seeing anything, they will not tell you that sometime back they got something. Now, because that something has finished, and it was not something that was designed and implemented in a way that it reproduces itself. It was just handout, okay, use and go. When it finishes, they will come back and tell you, oh, they said they gave us this, we didn't see. Because yes, of course, it keeps recurring in the budget that they are going to be giving stuff we don't see. So the government needs to move away from that and change the way things are done. So even when you're giving loans, you're not just giving loans in a way that once the person decides not to pay and goes away with the loan, there's nothing you can do. There has to be something. So a management process can go with all those things, where as they are giving you something, they are guiding you, being with you all through to see that it generates income, and then they could take from that income and help someone else, unlike the current handouts that we are doing, which middlemen just put in their pocket and go, because there's not enough monitoring to see that these things are used. So when anybody says, oh, we've not seen anything, this and this, I think with a pinch of salt. They've gotten something before.
But there's no continuity.
Exactly.
Or they can't.
And that's where the challenge is.
But it's true. So now, as regards this, you just mentioned that there's no monitoring. Obviously, we are aware that for most people, they're given resources, either in form of grants, loans, and all that. And then there's nobody monitoring their progress to see that the success can be replicated. I feel like if agriculture, especially in the agricultural value chain, if we have successes being replicated, for example, you are set up, you are given the necessary resources, you should be able to replicate whatever it is you have done. In that way, we would see more. Now, let me go to trainings for people that are in the agricultural sector. Are there trainings? Do you think that, because if you want to be a successful entrepreneur in whatever field that you happen to find yourself, you'd be advised to go for courses, take professional courses. Even if you want to do business, learn under somebody. Do we see that? I don't think we see much of that, because these people just wake up, they basically just have the knowledge that they know of subsistence farming that they have been farming for a while, or grow up to see their parents do or their ancestors do? Are there trainings? Do you think that it is high time we begin to consider trainings for farmers as regards the various agricultural value chains that we have, teach them how to better upskill, to help better production and all that?
There are trainings. There are loads of trainings. Even in Abuja here, somewhere at Gora, there's a training center there where young farmers from so many states in the country have been going there for training. The CSS group, they organize that there. And I have been part of.
That's beautiful.
I've done communication stuff for them there. I've even, trained them on how you use social media and all that to push your stuff. Now, the thing is that there are lots of wonderful things happening in Nigeria, but I don't know the reason why. For some reason, some people up there don't showcase these things. Probably because they use some of all those things as maybe means for corruption and things like that. So they don't want to talk about it so that scrutiny doesn't come into it. I know states, or your state, for instance, sometime last year, they about sent 300 young farmers to Gora here for this training in that center I'm talking about. It's a wonderful center. And that center is one of the fastest growing centers in West Africa currently on agricultural technology. They use technology from Israel. We know how Israel is a small place, not very good land, but are able to produce stuff. If you go to Delta State, let's go back to the area of Ibori. Ibori, when he was governor of Delta State, despite a lot of things people say, but especially in his second tenure, he was one of the most successful governors in this country. I can say that. He built the largest agric facility in West Africa. It's called the Songhai Project, somewhere near Sapele there. And you have students from all over, all the schools around, even outside the country, come there for agric training. That project is still there till today. As we know, Delta State is the largest producer of cassava in the world. We're not talking about Africa, in the world. And they do all those things there. But the funny thing is that when you go there, even the price of garri keeps rising every day. Why? Because everything that comes out from there now is being exported, because they use it for so many other things. So one thing we need to do, and when you export these raw materials, you export them cheap. And those guys, the foreign guys, they turn it into something else and they send it to you. They use it for a lot of pharmaceutical products. They use it for so many things. We talked about bread, from cassava. We've not been able to take that to the next level since. So these things are there. I have seen individuals in the BBC, several young individuals have been showcased where they've gone for trainings in Nigeria here, and they've been able to set up some factories and stuff that process some of all these products. There's even a training here in Abuja on even packaging of products. There was something where I using some of my training for media people. There's the same garri about, that you sell cheap. Now the person puts it in a proper nylon and labels it garri.
Most likely mixes it, has the
proper packaging, and he sells it 10 times the amount you sell. But there's nothing, but it's just the packaging that makes it. Some of us don't know how to package ourselves very well. Maybe it's what we say that packages us. But when it comes to food, it's not your talking. It's how you process it, how you package it, and how you refine it. I think we need to bring that out. Now, if we bring that out, that's going to make, agric more exciting and interesting to young people, like the many documentaries and interviews, the BBC did with some of all these young people. Now, some of them have even taken it to another level. They've moved it to the UK and other countries, just like that. So if we could focus on that, showcase these things, that is where the government, I don't know. I don't know, and that's why we approached the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs to do that communication strategy for them at the end while the last regime was leaving and it was handed over to the new regimes. I pray they take it up, and we're hoping that that would also be like, because that's the first for any ministry, that would spur other ministries to develop such kind of strategies so that you have a roadmap. Because all this, I just mentioned all these examples, they are there, but we can't see it.
We can't see it.
I only know because I've been part of, some of them, but we can't see it. Now you showcase these things, and you're going to get international funding coming to support those kind of activities. Young people will be excited about it. And I could tell, it could reduce all this kidnapping, could reduce Yahoo. People could see alternative means of generating revenue. Government needs to come in and showcase these things.
Very rightly, because I was just going to come in and say that when you hear agriculture, when you hear farmers, what comes to your mind is, especially for young people, they think that farming is not so lucrative. It's not, as a matter of fact, the meeting that I went for, one of the keynote speaker there was saying that if she introduces herself like a farmer, they say you don't look like a farmer because supposedly a farmer is supposed to look rugged and haggard. I beg your pardon. And so that is the supposed notion. So how do we now begin to integrate young people to see that? And this is obviously because farmers are not given the right platform per se, but I must commend the initiatives that have been taken by relevant agencies and government agencies as well to see that farmers and then agricultural sector is, put in place. Now, how do we now integrate young people to embrace agriculture? And then as regards technology in agriculture, are we ready yet? Because we see that, I'm talking about machineries, I'm talking about tools and equipment. I like that there are young people that, like you mentioned, that are doing good, that are doing great. But the truth of the matter is we don't see it. There's no much projection about people who are doing this in the media. We don't see it. If you're not in the system, like you rightly said, you probably will not get to know about it. We think that we need more awareness as to what is happening and funding for these people who have set up or started up things that are amazing like this. Because take it or leave it, we see that we produce Gary, for example. We produce cocoa, for example. But it is sad that we have to import chocolate, the byproduct. So what can we do to ensure that the byproducts of cocoa and the rest can still be achieved here in Nigeria, other than having to import it? Because take it or leave it, we produce the necessary, the raw stuffs, the basics of these things, and then we export it only to import them back again in the country. Why can't we finish up that chain here in Nigeria? What can we do about this?
It lies in the hands of the government. If the government gets up. Now, we hear things like, I know government officials are watching me, and I'm speaking directly to the president now on this one. His Excellency, the president. I hear things like, let me take the last AFCON. I heard something, it was on the official Twitter handle. President directs full support for the Super Eagles. We use that word a lot, direct. It's actually not supposed to be. Certain things are supposed to work naturally in Nigeria because we have a civil service structure. Go there, there are officers responsible for every single thing. You've said collecting salary from our tax, who are not doing what they should do. But we've gotten to a point where sometimes you need a directive. And we've seen it happen when the president gets up and says, this is what we need to do. And he stamps his feet down and says, let's do it. It will work. It is because we've not been able to take such things seriously. As far as I am concerned, no foreign organization should come in here and set up anything or do business with us without having a plan to establish stuff in Nigeria. That's the basis on which we had those car assembly plants in those days. So we should not do that. And if the president puts his foot down, during the Obasanjo regime, even his military era and his civilian era, he made some directives which increased the amount of local content for Nigeria. You know, directives, and it took immediate effect. But somehow we see states go and get into partnership with several international organizations, and they take us back again. You know, so it has to be a directive from the president, because all these roadmap plans, they are all there. They should just go check, dust it out, and give a directive. Say, look, implement this thing now, and it will be done. The biggest chocolate firm, when foreign trips are being made, say they are discussing business for Nigeria, you get the biggest chocolate firm, say, hey, we need you to come establish a plant here in Nigeria. If not, we'll stop importing chocolate from you. It's as simple as that. See, Nigeria is a big country. We look down on ourselves, and that's why we get foreign coaches and all that, whereas we can do it. When you say buy Nigeria, start from Super Eagles, get a local coach. Let's begin to see Nigeria. Let's see that, look, we can produce chocolate here. And now, today, Nigerians are angry on the street, but do you know that chocolate is known to have something that makes you happy anytime you eat it? So why can't we invest in that and get it here? Long ago, we set the petrochemical plant. I remember then when the plant in Warri was made, in Efron, Delta State was made. I remember they started producing some plastics then, which we were buying. They weren't so nice, but at least it was in Nigeria. So over time, you begin to improve, you begin to improve, you begin to improve, you begin to improve, you begin to improve. But all of a sudden, plants died, we stopped. Today, we are importing plastic from China. Why? So it has to be a directive. Say no more. No more. When you, okay, take rice, for instance. At one stage in this country, we were importing rice all over the place. But do you know that today, let nobody deceive any Nigerian. Go check the record. Today, Nigeria is producing more rice than we can consume. Every house eats rice. Every house eats garri. Those are the two main things that at least there is no day where you don't find that, you know, falling somewhere in. So we have no business whatsoever being poor. Now, if we produce more garri than we can consume, rather than importing it, why don't we throw it into the processing plants? Now, the states, for instance, with the removal of subsidy, we had that revenue to the federal government and states has increased. Currently now, nobody has sat down to say, okay, where do we plow this thing into? When people have food that they can eat, the rest is other things secondary. Next is accommodation, right? But the most important thing is food. People sleep under the tree, but when they can eat, they are okay. You know, so why not get up and say, all right, now let's plow this into the agri value chain, the processing angle. That's where the real money is. And then we have enough population to buy our products. So we don't even need outside. Any country that needs our product, they'll pay 10 times what Nigerians are paying to get it. Because the businesses will make enough money within Nigeria before you even think of abroad. Our population is there to fund anything we need. Look at the telecom sector. Look at the telecom sector. Where did they make the money from? Look at other things that have popped up. Betting. See the millions that come in there. What about the pay TV sector? It's all money from Nigeria. So if the government involved, because huge money is involved to set up these plants, some individuals that have this money are very selfish. They don't want to do it. I don't know why. So let the government just take it up and say, all right, we'll do this. And then begin to invite partners. You can break it into components, set up the main thing, and then bring in partners to come in, just like the power sector is doing, you know, bringing in partners from here and there to fill up. And you'll be surprised. So it has to come from a president. Take that decision, give that directive. So yeah, this is one sector we should deal with, and let's focus on it. and get it done. And it will be done.
It will be done, truly. Just lastly, I want us to look at, are there countries that have gone through this part that we have gone through, had it difficult, in terms of food crisis, insecurity, or faced the challenges that we face presently and have scaled through, that we can look at and say that, okay, let us copy the steps of these people and, see how this can work for us?
Funny enough, Nigeria is one of those countries. It's just that when we go forward, we keep coming back. The truth, we've been able to do it before. It is not 9. The 70s we did these things. We've done it before. So it's not, Nigeria is one country. But if we want to say, okay, internationally, let's take the US. Just go study the way farmers are taken care of. When we watch American movies, the billionaires they show us in those movies, who are they? Farmers. There are several American movies, you see them, the way they are taken care of. Okay? Because they went through a crisis and they made sure that that sector was carefully, taken care of. And that is why they have that stability when it comes to food. And they export and do all that. There's stability there. And we can. See, if not for the security issues happening currently, that's the main thing even affecting food issues. We wouldn't even be talking about food in Nigeria. That's why I say subsidies should be for those who consume outside. Farmers in Nigeria normally, if not for security, never go hungry. It is we working and not getting enough pay in the city that have to buy that go hungry.
Sadly, but as of yesterday, it was in the papers, we reported that the president and other service chiefs as well as governors had a closed-door meeting, to discuss food crisis, and I'm sure issues concerning security and the welfare of Nigerians. We hope that drastic measures will be put in place to address these economic challenges. Many thanks, Mr. Aro Leonard, for coming on the program. It's been an absolute delight talking to you and hearing you talk about the challenges and possible ways out. We definitely do hope to have you join us another time. Many thanks. Now, if you've just joined us, this is what we're calling the curtains, but you can join us next week for another episode of Business Point. We've been speaking with Mr. Aro Leonard, who is a media development expert and founder of Clevaro Communications. For now, we would have to say our goodbyes. Many thanks for joining us. And don't forget, we're on Star Times, channel 276. Kindly follow us on all social media platforms using @GlobalTVNG and other handles now showing on your screen. I am Queen Agaba. Thank you for watching. See you again.